name is Brennan Johnson, and I'm making this video to document everything that I've learned about this tractor. So my dad passed away about 6 months ago, and it became my job to figure out what tractors we had, get them running, figure out what to do with them, that sort of thing. So this farm has been in our family since the late 50s. That means a lot of tractors got pushed into the corner of barns and parked and repainted and nameplates missing. So a lot of tractors were a mystery until I dug into them and found serial numbers and that sort of thing. This tractor though, there's no serial number on it, there's no nameplate on it, no badge of any kind, and so this was the big mystery. So I've been emailing with people all across the country, and I've gotten a lot of help from a lot of people. So I wanted to thank the Keeler family and the Kemmerer family out of Kansas and I believe Illinois, Rex at the Aircraft Museum in Pueblo, Colorado, Sherry at Heritage Iron, Jesse at HomemadeTractors.com up in North Dakota, and everyone at the Smokestack.com forums. Everyone's been a great help on this and very willing to share information that they had. So I've been calling this tractor the Mystery Machine, but its real name, based on what I found in the family photo albums, is the Deere John. And I've got pictures of this tractor from 1979 when it was painted John Deere green with yellow tires, and I believe that's the way it originally came when my dad bought the tractor. I don't know exactly when he bought it, but I know it was sometime before 1979. So I've got these pictures that show winter 1979 and the tractor sitting in front of the barn, and if you're able to zoom in, you'd see John right there, and then it used to say Deere back here. So I'm sure it was a play on the John Deere name. I don't know if it's because they just happened to have green and yellow paint, or if they were just trying to make a homage to John Deere. And anyone from the Midwest will recognize this winter right here. You can see kids on a sled behind the tractor. That's me and my brother. And there's my mom, making sure my dad doesn't run us over with his new tractor. But this is from the Great Blizzard of 1979. And 2008 found these pictures. The tractor was repainted because the town that I live in, the high school colors are orange and black. So my dad repainted the tractor, and then he would drive it in the 4th of July parade, the Labor Day parade. These pictures are from 2008. Sometime after that, he got a little afraid of driving this with kids running around looking for candy on the ground, and he just decided it was not worth driving a big tractor like this in a parade with people running around. So it turns out that this tractor is a 1954 or 1955 Federal F-55-AF aircraft tug. Apparently Coleman was making an aircraft tug. Federal came in, undercut the contract, and so there's some controversy about what is a Federal, what is a Coleman, but this is definitely a Federal. There's a lot more Colemans out there, I believe, than Federals. Federals were only made for a short time in the 50s. So apparently they needed a really heavy tug to pull the B-36 Peacemakers, which were 410,000 pounds fully loaded, or max weight. And so Coleman and Federal came up with this tug that weighed 33,000 pounds and could tow them around the airstrips. So it looks like they built them until about 59, and then everything went to scrap or became surplus. And since there were not a lot of four-wheel drive tractors at the time, people would take these and they would convert the chassis and the frame into a big four-wheel drive farm tractor. So one thing about the Federal was, and the Coleman, the engines were nowhere near as powerful or as reliable, I guess, for farm use. I guess they didn't have the durability. So, well, everything up to the frame, not including the tractor tires, but everything up to the frame is a Federal, The engine and the transmission is a Detroit diesel that someone pieced together from some spare parts. So I've actually found a brother to this tractor down in a collection in Evansville, Indiana, and I found 3 original Federals, one at the Aircraft Museum in Pueblo, and one down in Pima, Arizona, and one out in California somewhere. I'm sure there's more around, but these are just the ones I could find off the internet. So take a walk around and show the different parts of the frame and what is Federal and what is not. So the main thing that tells me it's a Federal is right here on the chassis, or on the frame rail I should say. So if you look at a Federal dashboard, it'll say model TT-11 and it gives a chassis number. And the one out in Colorado is 158,000 and some change. This one's 159,000. And I suspect, but I haven't confirmed, that if you look at the frame rail, the holes in it, and the shape of it, you'd see that this matches a Federal. So the front end, and there's Elsa protecting me from chipmunks and squirrels. And so the front end, I thought this was definitely a Federal, but I've seen a Coleman that had the same or pretty similar front end with the C channel. So I'm not sure, that might have been copied by Federal and be identical to the Coleman. But this front axle mount right here, welded onto the frame, and then this upper rail right here that's welded onto the frame, those are original Federal. The air brakes and the axle, you can't see it on this axle, but if you look at the markings on the center part, the part numbers match up to the Federal out in Colorado. So pretty much the entire axle is original Federal, and the thing that makes it a Federal over a Coleman, from what I have been able to piece together, the Marmon Harrington axle was only used on the Federal. So you have to respect the ingenuity of the people who converted these, because if you look, you can look in the back and see this inner rim right here is part of the original Federal rim and tire, and they cut in the back right here, they welded these pieces in, and then they welded it onto a tractor tire. So they basically made these tractor tires from bits and pieces. And so other parts of it, if you look at the rear, you can see the leaf spring. The Federal had, I believe, a 12 leaf spring, and you can see that they cut leaves out right here. They re-drilled the clamp right there, because this tractor weighs 10,000 pounds, maybe 15. We didn't need the full leaf, so they modified that. But you can see the original, the shock mount, hot riveted onto the frame rail, and the rear shock mount is the same, hot riveted. And then the axle on the back is basically identical to the axle on the front. Tires are made up the same way. I can't explain why the frame rail is cut right here, or why the frame rail on the back is cut. I believe the original, well, the Federal and the Coleman tugs, I believe they came out maybe a couple more feet, and so they cut it off when they converted it. But if you look at this entire assembly right here, this looks pretty much identical to the Federals that I've seen. And everything on the other side is pretty much identical. Now, the only other 2 pieces that are original Federal, actually 3 pieces. One, the air brake controller right here, that matches the Federal that I've seen. The air brake gauge, that also appears to be original. And then I was just looking at it today, and I'm almost certain that the lights are original lights off the front end, and I'd make a bet that the air horns are original as well. So, other than that, the transmission, well, I should say the transfer case, is a Rockwell T-182, which appears to be military of some sort, but I can't really tell if that's what the Federal used. So I don't know if that's original, and I can say for certain that the engine and the transmission are not original. So this is a 671 Detroit diesel engine, and you can see it's a General Motors diesel, which means it's pre-Detroit diesel. If you look at the serial number, it's a 4-digit number after the 6A, which apparently puts it as about 1940, 1941, somewhere in there. But the problem with that is if you look on the other side of the engine block, it's got a circular Detroit diesel logo, which didn't exist until, I believe, the late 50s, maybe the 60s. So the guys in the forums seem to think that maybe the block was bad, and so someone swapped out the original block, and then they stamped the original serial number onto it. But so I guess this engine is pieced together much like the rest of the tractor. If you look, it's got the integral fuel rails, which apparently give an indication of the age. And if you look at the injectors, they're offset HV injectors, which also tells you approximately when the age was. But the engine probably hasn't run in about 15 years, maybe 10 years if I'm lucky. The wiring, a lot of it still has cloth insulation on it. Wires were disconnected. The main battery cable was shorted out to the frame. So I've had a lot of fun working on this, but I still haven't hit the start button. The other problem is there's no battery in it and no indication as to the voltage. But that is next on the list. Now that I've gotten rid of about 50 gallons of 10 to 15-year-old diesel fuel, which probably would still run through this thing, but I figure I don't want to take the chance. So that's everything I know about the tractor at this point, and hopefully the next video is of this thing firing up and churning out some smoke, but I guess we'll see.